basically, GB News has launched this show called Headliners. It's now running 7 days a week. It's 11 p.m. to midnight, and it's there's a rotating panel of comedians going through the news stories. So, I mean, I did it last night, funnily enough. So we've got a clip of me doing it last night. We're going to play in a moment. But when it was announced, they revealed, it's been running. It started off like 4 days a week, but now it's gone to 7 days a week, and they've released a sort of a promo thing with all the comedians doing it. And so it got absolutely slaughtered. I don't know if you remember, a couple of weeks back I was talking about a Radio 4 pilot that I recorded. So that was recorded last Monday, and like Twitter just blew up with people slamming that before it had even been recorded. People were offended in advance, like Minority Report, like, you know, the pre-offence unit.
Well, it's the same with Dankula. Dankula did like a thing with the BBC, and they got them cancelled before it even aired because it was just him.
Yeah.
And it was just like, right, okay, well, he has to go. It's like, okay, well, brilliant.
Yeah, and the rationale, it's almost like witchcraft. They're well, this person's a witch, so whatever they do is going to be bad.
Divining the future, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. So this thing in the future is going to be bad, but so Headliners has come out. Basically, we've got a really balanced panel. It's always presented by either Mark Dolan, Dominic Frisby, or Simon Evans, and then the rotating panel. There's loads of lefties. There's some people that are right wing like myself, but you know, we're pretty balanced. It's, you know, it's fairly diverse in opinion as well as you know, in what we, you know, our sort of tick box demographics. But yeah, so you know, here's a clip here, so we can play it if you want to play it from the start.
Now, the Times is reporting there are more racist statues still lurking among us. Is this with you? This is somebody even predating William Coulson, I believe.
There is. There's a memorial to Tobias Rustat. He was a courtier to King Charles II, and he lived quite almost the entire stretch of the 17th century, quite wealthy, an investor and a director in the Royal African Company, which between 1663 and 1691 shipped more slaves across the Atlantic than any other business.
Wow.
They cornered the market, actually, and the worry is that he also set up, I read that he created the first fund for purchasing books at Cambridge.
Nice.
And that's why that statue is there.
Yeah.
But Cambridge is worried, and the college where the statue is worried that the money that he procured for the books was used by...
It's tainted somewhat.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, that's how it goes, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is how it goes.
Most of these benefactors and philanthropists are to some extent cleansing their soul.
Listen,
nobody got rich in the 17th century from like inventing a recycling stuff. It was all slave.
By making candles, I know, or by opening a yoga studio. I know it's true. And you don't want to know certain things about celebrities you follow. I read stories about Barbra Streisand. I'm like, oh, I can't read it anymore. Yeah. She has a museum to herself in her own house. She's crazy. Turn the music on.
Every time a dog dies, she clones it and has.
She does clone her dog. She does. Yeah. She has 2 cloned dogs right now.
The dog just wants to die. It's just let me die. I'm 185 years old. Please let me die.
Don't play
film Moon. Yeah. The dog discovers.
It's got to hear
it's
got to
stop that. So yeah, basically, you know, we talk about, you know, we've got issues. You've seen this type of show on so many different programs, but it's fun. It's funny.
Yeah.
And there you can see I'm on with Scott Capurro, who's a gay American comedian. So, you know, it's not just all straight white men going through stuff, being bad straight white men. But from the response it got on Twitter, so Chortle, this terrible comedy blog, they announced it, and everybody replied. It got like 780 replies, and all by people who look like this. I don't know if you click on her little face. I say little face. It's like one of the moons of Neptune.
Pronouns are she and her.
Click right on it so it opens up. Look, obviously my pronouns are she and her. Oh man, they all list their pronouns. They're all absolutely just, man, nobody would ever, your dick would bend away from it like a magnet. You know what I mean? Just just the worst of humanity, and they're all like, you know, hashtag be kind and all that, because they're never kind.
I saw a bunch of them being really cruel to Lee Hurst because he wasn't on the lineup.
Yeah.
And so he was trending just because they were like, haha, you suck, Lee. You're not even on GB News. So
Yeah.
what?
Lee-
How do you know? How do you know he's not like, I don't want to do that job or whatever?
Yeah, for like Lee Hurst, so he's not in GB News. He's retired.
Well, there we go.
Because he's a multi-millionaire. Why would he want to come and do, something like, man, that guy, and also he's kind of involved in not it, but he owns the Backyard Comedy Club in Bethnal Green, where Comedy Unleashed is, where we recorded the Radio 4 pilot.
Yeah, I've been there a bunch of times.
Yes,
it's great.
A great club. And but basically, man, the guy's super rich, like super rich.
And he's retired.
And he's retired, so yeah, he's not going to come on it.
Like, you old man, you don't have a job. It's like,
Yeah.
of course I don't.
And same, like people were saying, oh, Jim Davison doesn't even get on this. It's like Jim Davison is also
He's like 80 or something,
yeah,
isn't he?
and he's a multi-millionaire, and he's got his own thing going on. He doesn't want to come on this, but yeah, and lots of people showed their complete lack of comedy knowledge by saying they didn't recognize any of the comedians. I don't know if we can go on to. So yeah, here's the panel. So these, if you don't know who these comedians are, you're not much of a comedy aficionado. We've got Josh Howe, who's a fantastic comedian. Nick Dixon, Andrew Doyle, who is behind Titania McGrath, used to write for Jonathan Pye, very, very well respected. Then Steve N. Allen, who's on the MASH Report, so that's big primetime BBC comedy show. Then Rona Cameron, who she won Celebrity Big Brother or something, and she's had her own sitcom and all the rest of it. So these aren't small fries. Simon Evans has had loads of BBC series. Dominic Frisby is probably famous. Mark Dolan, he's a great guy. He's really funny.
Yeah.
Mark Dolan has had sort of primetime Channel 4 shows and documentaries and all the rest of it. Sajila Kershi, she was involved in a Perry Award-winning show. Ian Stone, circuit regular. I've done Comedy Store headliner like I used to when I still got booked by them. And he's a regular on TV and radio doing sport and stuff. I do Times Radio with him a lot. And then there's me. So you've got
I've never heard of any of those people.
and the guy that I did it with last night, Perry award winning. He's in Mrs. Doubtfire. He's in Star Wars. He's not a
loser.
Yeah, and like people are, I've never heard of them. You know what I mean? Well, maybe
Get off Twitter.
Yeah, maybe you should like learn it. It's like, what, you want Michael McIntyre? The only comedian recognizes Michael McIntyre.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it. But anyway, so we've got loads of abuse from comedians as well. So yeah, if you go back to the one we're just on. This is Ian Fox. Who
Who's he?
He's always been nice. Well, exactly. But I've always.
No, I mean legitimately, who is he?
He's a comedian. He's like a sort of circuit comedian, but not a high tier one. He's like
right. He's a loser.
sort
Right,
of, yeah,
Never heard of him.
middle spot.
But I love the way he's making Twitter a really nice place there.
Yeah, he's like Siri. What does a gallery of? I mean, I can't say it.
No, exactly.
Look like C words. And I replied to this one as it got my reply. If you scroll down. Siri, what does a comedian who makes £320 a month look like? I'd be surprised if he even makes that much.
I don't know who he is, so I couldn't comment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he makes. I think he's probably got a proper job now, but yeah, he's always been nice to me. And then tweet something like this. And then there's Ollie Horn, who's a comedian, just asking him like, why are you bothering tweeting something like this? Who are you trying to impress?
Exactly. He's just being needlessly cruel.
Yeah. So
okay, why?
Good point from Ollie Horn there. Here's another comedian. Although I mean, I've got to be honest, no good comedians seem to have an issue with it. It's all these terrible comedians.
No
If we
kidding.
move on to the next tab. Joe Ross Williams. I thought Simon Evans had a bit more integrity than that. And Joe Ross Williams
didn't sign up to the Nazi party.
Yeah,
What the
totally.
hell's wrong with you?
Although people do reference the Nazis later on, people are absolutely mad. But Joe Ross Williams, just terrible open mic. It's like, why have you? Where did you get the balls to address Simon Evans, who's had a long career with the BBC?
Yeah, I don't know who this guy is either.
Yeah, so he's actually Joe Ross Williams has quit now. Because comedy's hard, especially if you're terrible. If we move on to the next
He's
tab,
now working for Halifax, I believe.
and there's Mitch Ben, who is quite a successful comedian, but he always seems to have a go at
Don't know who
stuff
this guy
like
is
this.
either,
So
to be
yeah, I mean he's a musical comedian, which doesn't count. If you got a
Yeah, I
guitar,
agree.
Can
But
you
hang on,
use guitars?
doesn't that BTFO Dominic Frisbee?
Yeah,
can't-
no,
yeah, no, we can't.
I apply this to Dominic.
Dominic.
Dominic's failing is that he uses a ukulele.
I agree,
because it doesn't comedy with musical instruments doesn't because it's just forcing. It's like forcing people to applaud when you finish. That's all it's doing.
This is shade being thrown, I disavow.
But Mitch Benn says, because they've all got this thing like, you think you're the only right-wing comedian on the circuit? It's like, no, nobody's ever said that apart from you. You know what I mean? But he says that about everything.
What they say is that there are hardly any right-wing conservative comedians on the BBC or Channel 4 or something like that. You know, it's not that they don't exist, it's that you never platform them. Yeah. That's what the objection is.
Yeah, and more than half of the comedians there are probably left of centre. So, you know, it's ridiculous to say that they're all conservative
they're just not
comedians.
Woke.
If you ask me, it's not right-wing enough.
Yeah.
So, you know,
but they're just not woke. That's the contention.
Yeah, they're just not
left-wing.
Some of them are quite woke. Like Rona Cameron is fairly woke. Stephen Allen is quite woke. Sajila is quite woke.
God.
So, yeah, Christian Talbot here.
They have one joke. Like, literally. Like they say scabs.
Yeah, so this is Andrew O'Neill, who's he was, you know, doing this sort of transgender thing before it was popular. But yeah, I mean, I've kicked with Andrew, and he's not a good comedian, and all his stuff is whimsical. Thing. And to say that we're scabs, like we've crossed some sort of line that comedians shouldn't be allowed to like perform.
The comedy union has declared. This
there's one opinion you're allowed to have, and how is this? You know, you'd think the left used to be all for equality and representation and making sure everybody was treated fairly and equally, and now he's saying no, you shouldn't be allowed to represent, you know, more than half of the electorate.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you noticed, but the last election we voted in a Tory government.
Britain's
by
a
quite
far-right
landslide.
country. They need to figure it out. But the point is, though, like, is he saying that he's unemployed and you having a job is you being a scab?
He's probably not far. I mean, he probably doesn't make that much money, to be honest. I mean,
sounds like it's rough on the comedy circuit.
I gigged with him, and I've spoken to other comedians about it, and everybody says, you know, he's terrible. Christian Talbot is quit comedy, but he didn't quit comedy before perving and sleazing on a young female comedian. So yeah, he's a disgusting sort of grubby old man who seems to have this, like, you know, this.
He got 4 likes though, man. 4 whole likes and 1 retweet. I mean, that was worth it.
Well done, Christian Talbot. He was actually called out by Sajila Kershi, who Sajila runs a gig, and here he is saying, like, the Death Star. GB News. Actually, the decor is quite similar to the Death Star.
But I love this, as if GB News is the Empire. Yeah. It's not the BBC.
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we're the Ewoks.
Yeah,
we're the tiny
upstarts.
jungle planet fighting against the Empire. You know.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, here's this alleged BBC satirist. Having worked in political satire for nearly 40 years, I wish I'd known that at the start of my career, I would have tried harder not to be funny. It's like, don't worry, I think you achieved it, whoever you are, Diane Messas. Like, I've never, like, you work in satire, I've never heard of you. And
that's such an open goal, that comment, I would have tried harder not to be funny. It's like, look, you may as well just say, kick me in the face. You know, because that's what's going to happen with that comment. Sorry,
yeah. And as a satirist, couldn't you satirize GB News in some way instead of just...
Could you be funny?
Yeah. And here we get onto some of the more crazy comics. So Ian Stone, great guy, great comedian, you know, well respected, long time circuit comedian and headliner, and also he's Jewish. And so she's calling him out for being involved with GB News because she has an extended Jewish family around North London who most of this channel would see harmed.
What?
And I've read the mission statement.
So they literally think that GB News is essentially the Nazi broadcasting network.
Yeah. And even though, you know...
Look at all those people on GB News. They'd be supportive of gas chambers.
Yeah, and even though
Unbelievable.
GB News doesn't say it openly because, you know, we're restricted by Ofcom into not calling for genocide. You know, that is one of the things that's a no-no when it comes to broadcast regulation.
If it wasn't for
Ofcom, this is just... It blows my mind that somebody can sit there and think that. I mean, unless they're just, you know, really in need of some medication, that is just insanity. But
just the idea of GB News, like, God, I just love Hitler so much. I just think those Jews they just weren't all around us all of the time. It's so ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
No wonder Andrew Neil left.
And consider, I guarantee you, this person voted for Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh, absolutely.
Who probably does want to see. I mean, he certainly wants to see a lot of harm come to Israeli Jews.
He's certainly trying to get a job at GB News now, isn't he? You know?
But like, yeah, I mean, on a serious note, the Labour Party's attitude and the woke left's attitude to Israel, because nobody even knows. I was having, because my ex-girlfriend, she's Muslim or ex-Muslim, so we're out for a meal with her friends, and one of her friends was just banging on about Israel and Zionism, and I was like, yeah, but she was just discussing it as if Israel had just out of the blue suddenly decided to, kick Palestinians out and, take their land and all the rest of it. And I was like, yeah, but, what about the history of Israel being attacked by the countries surrounding it? And she just looked at me blankly, and I was like, the 6 Day War, for example. And she was like, what's the 6 Day War? So for somebody to have such insanely powerfully held opinions and be completely oblivious to something like that, because I mean, when you look at it from Israel's point of view, so all the countries around about Israel were like, we're gonna wipe you out. We're gonna drive you all into the sea. We're anti-Semitic. We're gonna wipe out your race and all your people. So all the Palestinians get out of Israel, because like when we've wiped all the Israelis out, all the Israeli Jews out, you're gonna return and it's gonna be your land. And then they went in to wipe out all the Israeli Jews, and the Israeli Jews kicked their ass.
Yes.
And beat them in a war, fair and square.
Thoroughly as well.
And then all the Palestinians that left were like, well, can we come back in now? This didn't go the way we expected, but I left some stuff.
The arrogance and the gall of that.
And
anyway.
I've got massive sympathy for Palestine. I think a lot of what Israel's done is
there's
beyond the pale, and there's terrible things have been done on both sides. But I don't know what, like, people are always like, oh, why is criticizing Israel anti-Semitic? I can explain this very easily. There's human rights abuses going on a huge scale across the Middle East, and nobody on the left says anything about it. If they say anything about it, it's to defend it. The one country where women have equal rights, people of different races have equal rights, gay people have equal rights.
Man, you're making me join the Palestinian course with this.
I'll
be on TV News before you know it.
Yeah, it's Israel. Israel is the one place for democracy and equality, and that's the one place that all the left and all the woke people target. And what's the one different thing about Israel? Well, it's Jews. So that's why it's obviously anti-Semitic.
Zionism is often used as a dog whistle.
Yeah.
In the Labour Party. You see it at their conferences. You see it as their activists are posting all over Twitter. It's a dog whistle.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and anybody with their eyes open can see where the real hatred and racism in society is.
And especially as Labour is the party of Islam. Like 90% of British Muslims vote Labour. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why the Labour establishment were complicit in covering up Rotherham and Rochdale, because they didn't want to rock the boat and lose any of those votes.
Of course, what you can do, alienate one of your core constituencies. And incidentally, 75% of British Jews vote Conservative.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly. Yeah. So GB News, definitely the home of the genocide of the Jews.
Yeah, bizarre. And if we go back to the tab we've just skipped, so this person has also tweeted at Ian Stone saying, what are you doing? You've just signed for a channel that celebrates dead black people. Which I missed this.
They had a George Floyd mural, did they?
Well,
that's a dead black person that people celebrate.
That's the thing. I mean, we do celebrate Martin Luther King. We celebrate Nelson Mandela.
And they're dead.
They're dead. I mean, we do celebrate them, but I think they meant it in a different way.
Yeah, I know. But it just sounds like condemning all of George Floyd's supporters.
It just blows my mind.
The idea that people at GB News are going, oh, another black person's died. Fucking break out the champagne, guys.
Yeah.
We've got another one. I mean, what a ridiculous caricature these people are. Embarrassing.
Yeah. And there are other comedians like Ben van der Velde was banging on about it, but no good comedians, and I think we've sort of reached the point, because really credible comedians are on GB News. It's sort of reached the point where the comedians who are criticising it are really making themselves look
like lunatics,
partisan and lunatics.
You want Jews and black people dead, do you? I knew that because you're on GB News.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's completely dissociated with reality.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series, which Carl and Bo do together, and this one is on the life of Solon, the lawgiver of Athens. And if you'd like to follow Carl, you can always follow him on Getter. So this is @CarlBenjamin on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.